So what we're talking about here is we're talking about 11.6 now. We're talking about the new version of 11 that's free for all registered 11 users. This will be available in your account once you're registered on lightwave3d.com. It'll just show up in your account. You can download it and get moving with it because we're into pre-release on this. What I'd like to do is I'd like to talk to you a little bit about LightWave itself. And the LightWave has a node-based structure in it for dealing with everything from surfacing, from motion, and really it touches all aspects of LightWave itself. We still have the layered system, but our node system is really making rapid strides. And this Raycast node itself is new in LightWave 11.6 and really brings a lot more to the plate as far as making things simple for you. LightWave itself is very scalable. You can use it for in a one-man shop all the way up to a 250, 300-man studio. Everything that you need is in the box. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to quickly create something very simply, and I want to talk to you about what this gives you. So I'm just going to create a ground plane real fast, and I'm also going to create, let's just do a sphere. Now I know right off that my ground plane is at 0, my sphere is created at 0, so I don't have any problem with setting this thing on it and getting it to move around. But one thing that you need to understand is that in 3D, all these things are ghosts. They can pass through one another. If I want to make sure that I'm setting a cup on a table or that I'm setting a foot on the ground, I have to, as the artist, make sure that it's doing it, otherwise I can just pass right through. So what Raycast Node actually does is it gives each of the objects the ability to see and feel the other objects in the scene. So what I'm just going to do real quickly is I'm just going to move this sphere back and I'm going to move it diagonally along my ground plane. I know that I actually moved it up. It's not touching the ground surface. I can even augment this. Once I add into a modifier and I add in the nodal motion, what I'm just going to do is add in, nice little filter to find it, my Raycast geometry node. When I'm talking about Raycast, I'm talking about firing a ray, firing a feeler, if you will, from one place until it hits or contacts something else. So my item position, I want to say as my origin, and I want to intersect to change my position. I just want to use it to contact my ground plane. That's all I had to do, and now you see my sphere is actually touching my ground surface. And making changes to my ground plane will not affect this. So as I move this, it stays right in contact with the moving surface. This is huge. This makes certain setups that would have taken a long time to do very, very easy. For example, if we're talking about maybe like a cam, you know, like a feeler that's riding on a cam surface, and that cam might be, well, certainly maybe it's not going to be round. So let me load in that very thing. So let me load in this camshaft. So what I want to do is I want to animate this camshaft, but I want to have this pin being driven by my cams. I'm just going to lift this up, and again, motion option, nodal motion, find my Raycast geometry node, add it in. Again, position is my origin. I want to find the rod, I want to find the camshaft, and intersect is driving the position. I think I actually pointed it at the wrong one. 1 second here. Nope, rod to camshaft. And for some reason, let me just do a quick reset. Load in that object again. Nodal motion. Raycast geometry. Position to the camshaft, and again, intersect to position. Now we're feeling it. So now as I move this into position, pull this up, if I grab my cam and rotate it, it's actually following that surface of that cam. Hit play, and we're actually feeling that cam surface. I've done this on one, so it's very easy then, if I just select this and clone it, pull this across, find that top, again clone it, bring him, clone, adjust one more, and adjust one more. And I now have all of my cams following the surface. I see one actually I need to pick up just a little bit more to keep it from popping. That would take me a long time to hand animate, especially if I wanted to change any of the surfaces later. Change the shape, change the... So these are actually pretty simple. These are simple situations. I'm firing from one thing into another, and this looks pretty simple. Let me show you though, simple can be misleading. Let me go ahead and clear scene again. And I'm going to load in something that doesn't look all that simple. So here I have a droid. A lot of people might get the Oblivion reference here. This kind of looks like one of those. And as you can see, this thing is firing a laser. This laser, where it is impacting the ground, is, well, it's spawning particles and it's spawning hypervoxels. This looks very complicated because, I mean, I'm having to trace over all manner of things as we go, but let's break this down. It's really also pretty simple. All I'm just going to do, again, is look at my nodal motion. What I have inside the droid, I have a null that's called gun. Excel at naming things. So what we have is we have a null that's doing the pointing for the laser. That is what's giving me my forward and my world position for the start of the ray that I'm shooting. That again is just contacting the terrain that is the intersect being the position. That's it. Again, a very, very simple thing, but it gives what would be a difficult thing to accomplish without it something very, very, very easy. Now, you can, with anything that's simple, me included, I'm simple, is you can take it to an extreme. One of these, you can use instances, and you can drive it with instances. So what we have here might look a little familiar to some, maybe not to everyone. I don't know how popular these are anymore with the hip kids of today, but we used to have a toy that was a pin press. You'd push in from behind and pins would push up. So what we've done here is we're recreating that with the Raycast node in instances. Oh. So what we're doing primarily is we're using the instances to be generated into a field, again, that's just shooting down to find either the ground or my face. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the other more direct applications. So what a lot of people, I know myself, deal with vehicles. Vehicles always want to stay in contact with the ground. So here I have a twisting path. And one thing to understand, the way this thing works is it's shooting the ray from my location. If I have something above it, as which I do here, it doesn't much matter because I'm close. If I get close to it, then it sees what's immediately below it. If I were to pick this car up, it would snap to the track above it. So by being close, this means that I'm able to just easily wheel around a very complex, I've actually added a ghost keyframe in here that shouldn't have been there, to turn around and follow this path. Again, this would be very difficult to do without my Raycast node, because I'm having to not only deal with turning, but I'm dealing with angles and everything else. Again, very simple to set up. I want to show you, though, this. So what I'm doing here is, again, I'm using my Raycast node, but now as you see, I'm actually driving over what is not just a flat. I'm actually rotating and rocking my car back and forth. So what I want to do is I want to show you this because this actually brings in something new in 11.6 to our node editor, and it's called compound nodes. Compound nodes are a way of putting our own user-created node that we want to use over and over and over again. Especially those difficult and complicated math. I know a lot of people, got into doing computer graphics so that they wouldn't have to deal with math, and then they find out that they're dealing with math, and now they, and so they hate it and they want someone else to do it. Well, this is a way of doing those complicated things one time. We do that complicated thing one time, we save it as a compound node, we can then reuse it, and we don't have to touch math anymore. So what I'm doing here again is I'm using my input as my item's position as my origin. The intersect is driving my position, so this is controlling where I'm going. But this is inside of my compound node to convert hitting my normal into heading, pitch, and bank. This will ship with LightWave 11.6, so we save you guys from having to do this math. And so what we're doing is we're changing our hit normal, and we're converting that into heading, pitch, and bank so that we're actually feeling those shapes as we go over. But again, this is touching on the concept now that we have of compound nodes that are built into LightWave 11.6. So again, what we've got is this just works out so that I only have to animate the car in its direction and its speed. It then senses and feels the ground. This also, let's just talk about, you don't have to do objects. We can drive anything with this Raycast node. So what I have here, and this is a rather unique use for this, but what I've got is I'm using a light actually as my ray origin, and where it's intersecting a shape, it is actually driving the angle and position of some other lights. You don't have to do this with just geometry. You can do it with anything that's part of LightWave. It also works with other applications and other tools within LightWave. It's just a node. It's up to you and your own creativity as far as what you want to do with it. So here, I'm using the node to actually, for the item info is the original light, and I'm using its origin and direction to drive the position, and then we're adding in some reflections and everything to drive the additional lights to make a completely new and different kind of control. This Raycast node really brings a whole other level of control so that items can feel the ground, wheels can sense the ground. This works on deformations, so I can have a sailboat, feeling the texture of the waves underneath it. Really, LightWave is all about empowering the user. It's trying to give everything that a studio would want to a single person as well. we don't want you to have to hire a team to do your technical direction. We don't want you to have to hire a team to do your surfacing. We want to give everything to you, the user. We want to empower you to be able to do, to bring those shows, those ideas, bring them to life. See it on YouTube all the time. You see Abogenesis is one that comes to mind as far as one guy and his vision and LightWave coming together. Again, it's just, this Raycast node gives you the ability that you don't have to be so accurate and so concerned with keeping something above the ground, keeping something in contact with the ground. It gives each of the objects its own ability to sense and know where other objects are in the scene. It doesn't have to just do one. If we look at the option here, we can have the Raycast detect and report back for anything in my scene. I'm not limited to just having one ground plane or one contact surface. I can have multiple things on the surface, multiple things around in my environment, and each one of those can drive my nodal motion. Anyone who has had to do positioning of many objects, characters setting down cups on the tables, keeping fingers from interpenetrating cup surfaces. All of this is what this Raycast, this one little node brings to the table, is it really makes one object aware of other objects, contact surfaces, aware of other contact surfaces, so you're not having, you as the animator are not having to worry about that. You just get close and it does the rest. Because it's actually reading the geometry itself, when that geometry displaces, that's where it is. So yes, if you're driving it with a morph, if you're driving it with a deformation, with bones, with any kind of, anything, a displacement map, it's going to know where that particular, it's not looking at the frozen location, it's looking where it is. So, absolutely. Spiders crawling all over of a character as he's breathing or running. The Raycast node can attach those to the character surface. Anything that gets attached, I'm just spitballing here, thinking that's a good question. No, it's a very good question. So it's just it just brings it brings that. Computers are supposed to be labor-saving devices. They're not supposed to make things harder. And with this one particular node, with this Raycast node, one particular aspect that's always plagued animators and setup guys really has, one simple thing just makes all the difference. Do you have any other questions? I mean, that's no. Hey, and it's one of those things we've got demo pods set up around. If you find me there, or find any of the other guys there, feel free, jump up. I want to make sure that the guys listening on the stream, I believe we're paying attention to comments. We're paying attention to Facebook. So. Hey, if you're here on the show floor, that's great, because we can shake your hand, but if you're in cyberspace, we're listening as well, so. But, yeah, this node, once you get a hold of it, once you get it in your, and grok what you can do with it, you start thinking about all those things that you had done in the past. Oh my gosh, if I had just been able to easily find that table, if my feet had been able to see that floor, then that's what this brings to you. It would be interesting. It would be interesting to do a setup that would involve that. You know, you might get into, you know, who sees what first. You know, you might get into an order of operations issue, but you know, you just have to kind of play with it. So it's just let's just see what we can, you know, come up with here for the last few. So let's just ground plane 50. Sphere small. Moved from corner to corner. Node of motion, raycast. Forgot to tell it to look at the ground. There we go. So now as this comes across the displaced ground, and again, we can change that, change the size. So now it just traces across that ground surface. So here I'm using displacement map to change the shape of this thing, and it's if I change it, then it changes. So it's always staying in contact with that ground. This can be animated. So let's just throw in a quick key to change that texture over time. Turbulence. Got to make it a little bit more. So no matter how I change it, the raycast always sees it. So that'll help. You know, that'll be even with morphs, bones, anything, because it's looking at the polygon at that frame, at that time, where it's moved in time. So just as a recap, real fast, 11.6 pre-order now, special show price. If you're a registered owner of LightWave 11, it's free. It'll just automatically show up in your account at www.lightwave3d.com.